In the dynamic landscape of workplace safety, cutting-edge technologies are paving the way for a safer tomorrow. Artificial intelligence, computer vision, Internet of Things, software application, and wearables are powerful technologies that can provide critical data to help focus injury prevention efforts, provide real-time reaction to developing risks, and reduce workplace hazards. Today, our expert panel will dive deeper into wearable technology and computer vision and their implications for workers' compensation. The future of workplace safety technology is now. Please welcome to the stage your session moderator, NCCI Executive Director of Affiliate Services, Damian England, and our panelists, Aidan Madigan Curtis, board member at Voxel, and Haitham Elawary, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Kinetic.
So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our session today on safety technology. I'm honored to be joined by two of our expert panelists, which I'm going to get to their introductions here in a minute. But first, how about that exciting video that we just saw?
Yeah, but we don't have a drum roll, so I don't know.
It's part of it.
Last tough act to follow.
So in that video, you may be asking, so what are these safety technologies, and why would we even be talking about them at AIS? Well, let me take the first one, the why. Several years ago, we started getting asked questions from our carriers and stakeholders about what are these technologies, what can they do, how do they apply, are they being actually implemented? And then over the last year, we're getting more questions as we talk to them, where it's like, what industries do these apply to? Are there certain jobs, certain injury types? And what about AI, artificial intelligence? What role does that play? So what we did is this last year, we dug in and said, we're going to dig a little deeper and create a series of articles looking at the different players in this space, the players being the carriers, the technology providers, as well as the employers and employees. So with that, now it's the what. Today we're going to talk about two of these safety technologies. We're going to talk about wearable technologies and computer vision and AI. So with that, I'm going to introduce my two panelists that are with us today. They also participated in our articles, and I thank them very much for that. I'm going to start with Haitham. So Haitham Elawary, he's the co-founder and chief strategy officer at Kinetic and Kinetic Insurance. Yep. And not only did he develop a smart wearable device, but he also developed medical robotics for Philips Electronics and Harvard Medical. And that doesn't stop there. He's also got his PhD in biomedical engineering from Imperial College of London, as well as his mechanical engineering degree from Navarra in Spain. Yep. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Now, I'm not going to leave you out, Aidan. So now we have Aidan Madigan Curtis, who is a partner at Eclipse Ventures. She's also president and board chair at Voxel, who we're going to be talking about today. The one really interesting fact about Aidan, and many of you appreciate this, is that she was involved in the initial launch and ramp of the Apple Watch from 0 units to over millions in a week. And I think a lot of us in this room are probably happy about that. We like our Apple Watches. She also has her undergraduate degree in economics from Harvard University, as well as an MBA from Stanford University. So with these impressive backgrounds and resumes, I think we're all in for a very lively and good discussion today.
Great.
So with that, we'll get started. Haitham, so I know that safety technology and workers' injuries are very near and dear to you and very personal. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and maybe how did you get involved with Kinetic and how long has it been?
Yeah, absolutely. So great to be here, everyone. So yeah, I'm the co-founder of Kinetic. Started the company in 2015. And really the goal when we started the company was to build technology that could help reduce workplace injuries. And as Damian mentioned, it's very personal to me because my mom's a nurse. I grew up with her as a kid, and she got injured a lot. And so fast forward in life, the engineer in me was like, hey, there's got to be ways we can prevent these injuries. And that's really what led to sort of founding Kinetic. And then, one of the interesting things is when you get into comp, you realize very quickly that the sort of elephant in the room is strain and sprain injuries, musculoskeletal injuries. We heard it this morning from Donna in her talk, where it's still one of the biggest contributors to loss costs. And so we decided to build a wearable technology that essentially can help reduce these musculoskeletal injuries by training workers to use better ergonomics and body mechanics on the job. And then a couple of years ago, we sort of took the step and got into workers' comp insurance. So we created Kinetic Insurance in partnership with Nationwide. And what we do is we sell workers' comp, but with the particularity of where we give away the wearable technology for free to the policyholder. And we actually partner with them to help them implement it and get the benefits out of it. So that's sort of been the journey getting into workers' comp.
So it hasn't been that long, Haitham. Roughly, how many wearables would you say that you have in the marketplace?
Yeah, so we have about 350 customers right now. About 75,000 workers have worn the device. We actually just looked it up for this event, and we're just shy of 500 million hours of data that we've collected since we started.
Very good. It's impressive. Now I'm going to turn it over to you, Aidan. Tell us a little bit about Voxel. What is computer vision? How long have you been involved with that?
Sure, yeah. It's interesting, actually. My story with Voxel and why I was so excited to find the company as an investor actually started years prior. So you let the cat out of the bag. I was involved with Apple in manufacturing the very first Apple Watch. And we were bringing up net new factories there from the ground up to go from nothing to 1 million watches a day. And you can imagine that involved a lot of construction and a lot of the kind of complex manufacturing, construction, and logistics environments that I got to see sort of right in front of my face. And obviously, with those environments came exposure to the kind of accidents and injuries that happen on those sites. So that really stuck with me, and it's interesting to think about all the technologies at play here in this panel, everything from wearables to IoT to computer vision. I've touched a little bit of everything. After that experience at Apple, I went to a company called Samsara in its very early days. I know some of you have heard of and even work with Samsara. I was person number 10 on the ground there, saw it kind of from the ground up. And the reason Samsara is relevant here is their dash cam solution became incredibly popular over time as a way to reduce accidents on the road through driver safety and coaching, all based on computer vision in the cab. And one of the most interesting things there, I was an executive there for many years, and in our customer summits, our customers, the large fleets and manufacturers, kept asking us, when can we take this dash cam and put it in our facilities so we can get the same level of visibility and measurability, coaching, and safety orientation inside of our industrial sites. And Samsara had a lot on its plate at the time, but that thought really stuck with me. And when I joined Eclipse as an investor, I went on the hunt for the absolute best computer vision-based industrial safety technology I could find. I had the chance to meet many in the field, and I decided to invest in Voxel because of the quality of the team and because of their entirely camera-agnostic approach. Basically, Voxel can work with any existing camera in an industrial facility and run AI algorithms on top of the camera streams to do detections like lack of PPE, near misses of forklift or forklift collision, all sorts of ergonomics, bad bending, overreaching. You'll see a little bit about this later on in a video we have.
So quick follow-up on that. You talked about, so it hasn't been around that long, right? I mean, from when the inception till now, how many cameras would you say are actually in the facilities?
We have thousands of cameras live today, and we've done over 22 million incident detections. Wow. And it was interesting, you quoted sort of the number of hours. We were just looking at it with something like 4.7 billion sort of protected hours on the Voxel site.
I like that number.
Yeah.
As a follow-up, so you've been involved with it you've both been involved for a while, but Aidan, what would you say from your perspective is the most, success factor for an implementation and utilization and long-term use? Because you've been involved with this for a while, what would you say is that factor or factors, one or two?
Sure. I think one of the biggest risks in any technology company is that, you get some of these world-class engineers who make one of the most unbelievable products, but it's a great technical product and it's not easy to use, or it doesn't work well with the ecosystem, whether it's the workers or the employees who actually need to implement the technology. So at Voxel, one thing we really stare at is how do we ensure that it's not just about computer vision enabling these real-time detections and measurability, but that we're generating insights that are easy to use and that we have a partner on the other end, on our customer side, who's extremely engaged and excited to take those insights and translate them into the types of changes on site that lead to high ROI and reduced incidents.
And we're going to talk about more of those obstacles or challenges later, but you teed it up. Haitham?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the big thing to realize is that these safety technologies, as great as they aren't just a magic bullet, right? I wish they worked this way, but you can't just buy them and suddenly your injuries disappear. So what typically happens is you've got to get, at least we found sort of two big areas that for the most part can really help you get success. I think on the one hand is getting sort of management commitment. So there's got to be a commitment from management of saying, right, we are going to hold ourselves accountable to the success of this program. And that usually just involves sort of aligning on the value of the program, making it a priority. And once you do that, it really sets off in motion like all the right things. And I think the other part of it is the employee buy-in, right? So, we give a wearable to an employee. We ask them to wear it every day as if it were PPE. And, they have questions, so you have to explain what it is, what it does. It's not going to track your bathroom breaks, and it's not going to measure your productivity, and you're not going to get fired because of it. And so by explaining those things, explaining what it does, its use for safety, you'll typically get, good buy-in from the employer. At least they'll give it a try. And then once they use it, in our case, they use better posture, they use better body mechanics, they have less pain at the end of the day. So they start to see the value and they're more willing to use it after that. But definitely, if you don't have sort of management commitment and you don't go to the trouble to sort of really getting employee buy-in, it's very hard going from the start.
That's consistent with what we heard as we were doing our interviews with the different perspectives, is about the management buy-in, the employee buy-in, and trust, right? And the safety culture. All those kind of work together, from what I'm assuming. Yeah. So Haitham, that's a good intro. I know there's this fancy wearable that you have on you. Do you want to explain a little bit about how it works, right? How does this capture data? How does it transmit data? What can people do with it? Are there actions that come out of it?
Yeah. So this is my favorite part. I get to sort of show you what this is about. I think we have a video, right, for this.
Yes, we do.
All right. So there's the device. You can see it comes in sort of a pack of 10. It aims to reduce musculoskeletal injuries. And it's been designed to be very, very simple. So it's sort of, you can see that it just attaches to your waistband or attaches to your belt. It sort of looks like an old school pager. I know many of you remember that. And really it's designed for the workers to walk in, put it on in a couple of seconds, and then go off to work. And what it's able to do, it's able to detect in real time if a worker's performing a high-risk motion. And if they are doing that, then it will vibrate. So it immediately gives this sort of nudge to the worker that they're engaging in a movement that could put them at risk of injury. And when you do that, people then start to be more aware, and then they start to self-correct. We have a dashboard component which we give to managers, which is really sort of a collection of to-dos that they should do to really reduce their injury risk. And so you can see sort of different elements of the data that we show. And then, because we've had this out over the last 5 years, we've been able to reduce, on average, strain and sprain injuries by about 55%. So really, really meaningful impact. And also reducing sort of lost work days by 73%. So we tackle both sort of frequency and severity. And I actually am wearing it. So I wanted to show you very quickly. So here it is. You can see it over here. And basically, the way it works is that if you are doing, good body mechanics, it's like an invisible device. You just don't feel anything. But if I engage in something improper, so, Damien asked me to lift this up. So if I sort of, bend over improperly, lift with my back instead of my legs, what I get is a little nudge, a little vibration to remind me, hey, that was a high-risk movement. And what we've done is we've trained the device to measure things like high-risk bending, high-risk twisting, jumping, running. So a series of sort of movements that we consider high risk, and that sort of we're giving these gentle nudges to the workers in order to sort of make sure that they're aware that they're engaging in these movements and they can actually change the behavior. So that really is roughly how it works. I think one of the interesting things, especially for you all, is that we are now collecting data about the activities that workers are doing on the floor, right? And it's the first time we've sort of been able to do that. And so we take that data and we can say, hey, how does this company compare to others in the same class code, right? Are we seeing way more high-risk movements in one company than another, and why? And we can actually use that data in underwriting as well. So we've been doing a lot of that to sort of improve our ability to sort of provide best pricing for the lowest risks, right? I would say that's roughly how it works.
So yeah,
in terms of
great, it's fascinating. So it's both real time on the employee, you get the haptic vibration as well as generates this dashboard of views, which you can, I'm sure management and whatever can review it on a regular basis and actually meet with the employees to talk to them.
Exactly, and just to give you a sense of sort of impact as well. So we've most of the industries that sort of tend to adopt this tend to be industries that have a lot of strain and sprain injuries. So we see a lot of transportation, we see a lot of warehousing, manufacturing, a lot of last mile delivery. And so, when we put on the device, really you start to see that decrease in these high-risk movements. And so I'd love to talk about a particular customer that we have. They're the largest sort of liquor and beer distributor in the country. And initially when we started with them, we were in their factory floors, we were in their warehouses, but what they realized is that for a lot of the drivers that go outside of the building, they just have a lot less control over those workers' safety because they're just outside of a facility. And so we were able to put devices on those workers, see the high-risk movements, reduce those, and really take those injuries under control. And so we were able to reduce those injuries by 40%. But what's really fascinating is that we are able to do things like overlay these high-risk movements with the different drop-off locations that the drivers were doing. And so then you had supervisors going on sort of drive-ins with them, where they're able to go and talk to a customer and say like, hey, how can we reduce the risk of injury to these workers? Because we're just observing that a lot of it happens in this location. So it really enables you to do things like that. And from an insurance perspective, what we're seeing in our book is, part of our book has adopted the technology, and the other part we're sort of actively trying to convince them to do it. And the group that has adopted it has a 13-point loss ratio lower than the group that doesn't, right? So it makes a meaningful impact when it sort of gets adopted.
You may be getting the audience attention. So we did a survey, a pre-conference survey we had 2 questions. One was listed the 5 different technologies and checked on familiarity. Wearables, the majority were aware of wearable technology, maybe not every part, but there was only 18% that were aware of computer vision technology. So I think that's a good segue into Aidan. Tell us a little bit about, or show us a little bit about your technology.
Great, and I have a video too. And while I don't have amazing, entertaining live demo, maybe this actually fits because Voxel sits a little bit more in the background, almost by definition or deliberately. So we work on any of those existing cameras you just saw up on the screen. There's probably some IP cameras in here that you haven't even noticed. They're really subtle in the background, and almost every environment has them. And what we're doing is we're taking the data off of those, and we're running proprietary AI algorithms on top of them to do things like these detections you're seeing in front of them, whether it's the ergonomic suite of overreaching, bad bending, we do spill detection, lack of PPE. We have a whole suite of featuring and detections around forklift operations, whether it's not stopping. Yes, and we do all sorts of additional bad behaviors too. And actually, I shouldn't even call them bad behaviors because a lot of the way the Voxel product is structured is really for coaching and positive reinforcement. And it all comes together in a dashboard like this. I mentioned earlier that the key is making the product really easy to use and insights-driven versus incidents or detections-driven. So this is sort of the end of the video, but it's paused here because this is really where it all comes together. The product is all about safety scoring and coachability. It's also about visibility. So you can see perhaps across every incident, you can dig into specific incident types. You can easily toggle across ranges. Maybe you want to see improper bending at a certain facility over a range of an hour or a week or 6 months. All kind of easy to do real-time push button. Say you wanted to look into a specific incident, you can click onto that bar. A little video will pop up that showed you the specific incident in that moment and what was going on the site. So the whole product is really architected for visibility, measurability, and to really be acting in the background to provide a set of eyes and ears to support safety managers and operations managers when they can't be there on the ground all the time. And that's the nature of the way the product's architected. Now, Haitham mentioned a number of really important stats. So this is all well and good, but what can Voxel do for its customers and for the insurers that we partner with as well? We love one great case study. Actually, we just co-presented it at RIMS last week. It's a large big box retailer. They have about a dozen warehousing sites across the US. And at one of their sites, they've had Voxel running for about a year, and the results were palpable. Overall, a net reduction of almost 70% in workers' comp claims. That's a wide variety of issues they were able to get ahead of. Almost 95% reduction in forklift-related no stop at certain intersections and forklift interactions, whether it's collisions or near misses or struck by. And I think roughly a little bit over 50% reductions in ergonomic use cases, so bad bending and overreaching. And a lot of the reason these reductions happened wasn't because, to Haytham's point, the product's passively working in the background and then serving up these sort of statistics. That's just the beginning of the process. We work in a really active way with the safety managers to say, okay, so what? And we were there actively providing advice and support about where they could put stop signs, how to coach their workers. And that's really what led to that highly active reduction in claims. This was almost $1 million, it's actually just over $1 million in saved costs for them, direct cost, and over $3.2 million in indirect cost. It was a really powerful case study, and that was about a 1 million square foot facility.
I see a lot of pens writing now. It's very impressive. I'm going to stay with you, Hayden. We got the cool factor, right? Very cool. I find it cool. But let's talk about obstacles and challenges, because again, as we talk to different stakeholders, there's things like cost. What is the cost of these items? Privacy issues in all types of technologies. But one of the bigger ones we heard was all this data, right? What do I do with it? You talked about ease of use. That's one of them. But when I get all this data, how do you make it so it's usable?
Right. All highly relevant. You heard the case study I just presented with over $1 million in direct costs saved. I'm sort of sad to report that we only charge that customer $65,000 a year to use the product. So that's a pretty bananas ROI if you ask me, but we happily do it because it's really about driving the value. So cost can be a factor, and certainly upfront, there's that sticker shock of, is it really going to be worth it? Is it going to drive value? But we're seeing many customers, take a look at the product, hear referrals from other customers, stories like that, and say yes and get started. You've also mentioned the issue of privacy. This is critical, and I think Haytham and I can't talk enough about the importance of privacy, the importance of really respecting the worker. You made a joke about not tracking your kind of downtime or personal time. Voxel doesn't track anything about the individual. We do holistic stats. Obviously, you can click in and see what's happening on a site, but there's no architecture towards tagging a person or anything like that. That's not what the product is for. The product is to understand your safety stats and to be able to work with and coach your teams. And I guess the last thing I would say in terms of new increasing curiosities or potential fears, the word AI is both exciting and a little bit scary to a lot of customers. Yep. I think that the Microsoft presenter earlier was talking about the generations of AI or the generations of technological advancement. And computer vision, actually, it's not generative AI. It's not using a large language model, kind of, a bunch of black box stuff out there. Computer vision is trained on typical data that you'd see on general camera streams, and it is pretty advanced in terms of everything we've been able to do with autonomy these days, so the technology is real and it's hard to do, but it's not a black box, and we think that that's really important.
Absolutely. Now, Haytham, I know you've mentioned a couple of these already, how you've addressed, but...
Yeah, I definitely want to address the cost one. So, as I mentioned before, we literally give away this technology for free to our policyholders. And you've heard some of the impacts of these technologies. They can be really meaningful in reducing losses for a lot of our customers. And so, we've put our money where our mouth is and said, like, hey, look, we will literally give this away for free because we are convinced that the ROI happens, and it happens very, very quickly. So we've sort of decided, let's just take cost out of the mix. We're just going to take it out of the equation. And we think we'll have the most profitable policy in the market, even giving away these types of technology. So we're very, very convinced of that. And I would say on the sort of how to use data side, it's really, I can sort of relate to that challenge because when we started, I'm an engineer, Kinetic's filled with engineers, for better or for worse. And so we created this dashboard, and we're like, we're going to give you every bit of data that a device collects, right? And really what we learned very quickly is that people do not want more data. They, especially, we target the mid-market, right? And in the mid-market, the manager who's in charge of safety is in charge of operations and is calling to figure out why his worker didn't come in today. And so that person cannot deal with just an overload of data and figuring out what to do with it. So where we sort of ended up is like, look, we'll give you a to-do list almost. Like, here's a to-do list of the things you can do that will have the most impact based on the data we collect. But essentially, we're going to distill it down, and if you want to use it, you can go ahead and use it. And in that case, even if you don't use it, and we have plenty of customers that unfortunately just decide we're not going to use the dashboard, I just don't have time. The device still sort of can provide value because it's nudging the employees who are sort of like self-correcting anyway, right? So I think that's an important part of it, is just making sure it's very, going back to sort of very easy to use, so that people just don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, and if I can actually add one thing you just reminded me of, that customer case study I spoke about, they were actually introduced to Voxel through one of our insurance partners, and I believe they had a subsidized initial year with the product. And that went a very long way to sort of easing those upfront frictions and concerns, is the ROI going to be there? They then bought it full price the following year easily and actually expanded to all of the rest of their sites on their own dime. But, these partnerships are critical. And even a little bit helps, or even a warm intro has been really critical, actually, to help sort of reduce some of those barriers, some of those fears around the technology. Oh, well, if my carrier, if my broker is recommending this, or even suggesting that I just take a look, even just a friendly nudge, that goes a really long way to add credibility and to reduce some of the, whether it's skepticism or even just, some of the fears around the concepts of computer vision or, the privacy issues with wearables.
That's very good to hear that you're both very aware of what these concerns and obstacles are, and that you're actively trying to partner and work on them.
And David, if I could add one thing here, is, we talked about partnerships, right? And it's true, it's very much a partnership that you form, in our case with the policyholder, to sort of help implement these technologies. If you think of the typical relationship that a workers' comp carrier has with their policyholders, it is very thin for the most part, right? It's never as much as we'd like it to be. And these partnerships give a great opportunity to build that sort of loyalty, right? If you can help a customer implement a technology, see reductions in their claims, they respond so well to that, right? That you're just creating this relationship, which we see then in retention, right? That they want to stay with us because, hey, we've helped you implement this complex safety program, and it's been pretty successful.
So Haitham, I'm going to follow up. So we've learned a lot about this, but if you had a parting thought for the audience about where is this going? Because we heard in our interviews that it's like most of the employers believe in carriers that the future of safety technology is now, right? It's here. But what's the potential? Where is it going to go? Where do you see the growth?
Yeah, so I feel so thrilled to be in front of all of you, especially at a conference like this. So I want to be a little bit provocative. And so what I want to say is, I think fundamentally the nature of a workers' comp carrier is changing, right? I think traditionally it's been, hey, a claim happens, we'll make sure we pay it, we're going to be good for that. And I think today, what is going to happen and what is happening is that it's going to be a much different type of relationship. And it's going to be one that is essentially about providing policyholders with the tools they need to prevent injuries from happening in the first place. And that's a big shift, right? And so what I want to encourage all of you, and it's our thesis at Kinetic Insurance, it's completely that's the way carriers are going to become. So my challenge to all of you and my encouragement would be, be a part of that transformation, right? Don't be happy to just be the payer of claims when you can be so much more proactive and have such a stronger relationship with the policyholder. And at the end of the day, there's few of these situations that everyone wins, and this really is one that everyone wins. I mean, you get a more profitable policy, you get a more loyal customer, you get workers that don't get injured. It really is a transformative and sort of great new way of doing business. So I would encourage you to sort of adopt that and move forward with that.
Fantastic. So Aidan, where do you see the future of safety tech?
Yeah, I'd love to, predominantly echo what Haitham said. I think that one of the beautiful things about Voxel is we get to both work with some of the most advanced technology and some of the most talented people on that type of technology, and the work that we do actually stops horrific accidents from happening. We every day talk about sending workers home safely, and it's pretty incredible. I was at Donna's presentation this morning. It's been an amazing run on the workers' comp side, but we'd love to partner even more deeply to stop these issues, prevent the claims before they even happen. And that's what Voxel is all about. And we think it's an incredibly exciting trend for the industry, and humbly would love to kind of get more people home safely with you. So thank you.
Well, agree, right? I think our audience hopefully got something from that. So again, thanks want to wrap this up, and thanks to our excellent panel of experts here. I hope that everybody's found some good nuggets and some good information in this, awareness and insights about where safety technology is today, where it's going tomorrow. What are the possibilities for improving workplace safety, and as you said, sending employees home safely at night. So if you want more information, both Haitham and Aidan are going to be around for a little bit throughout the conference. I think they would really appreciate and enjoy talking with many of you. Also, if you want to find out more about the article that I mentioned, go to ncci.com. That series is called The Future of Safety Technology is Now. Thank you all, and please give a round of applause to our awesome panel.